Good afternoon, everyone, and we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. The HFTP Jamaica chapter is hosting this webinar, and you may ask me, what does HFTP mean? Well, if you're hearing that term for the first time, it means Hospitality, Financial, and Technology Professionals. And we are a part of a global organization with its head office in Texas, Austin. And so we want to just welcome you, and we know you will have an informative session as our presenter, Mr. Dawkins, will delve into NFTs and cryptocurrencies. Now, which one do you prefer? Let's see which one should be best. I mean, one is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, fungible, and the other is not. One can be traded and the other cannot. But guess what? You will learn so much more. So you are at the right place if you're interested in this currency, because guess what? If you're in Jamaica, then you know our currency, the value goes down ever so often. But before we go any further, I would just like to introduce you our president, Paul Campbell, who will give you the official welcome to this webinar. He is the president of the chapter, and he actually is a chartered accountant. He's a member, well, he's a fellow with the ACCA, and so he is in the finance arm of HFTP, and he will give you the official welcome just now. President Campbell.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. It's quite exciting, and I'm looking forward to Mr. Dawkins' presentation. We thank you for taking the time to join us, and we really hope that you learned something today. Have a great day and a productive seminar.
Thank you, President Campbell. Now, before we get into the presentation with Mr. Dawkins, just wanted to let you know that HFTP, we seek not only to, engage our professionals, but we also want to engage our students. And so we've tried to reach out to our students of the different universities around. And we actually had a vlog last year, and the winner of that vlog was Miss Sharice Braham. And she is going to give us a short synopsis of, what it has been like being involved in HFTP, and we will have some prizes and surprises. So I hope you have your pens and papers, because we'll be asking you some questions, and I don't know, maybe you'll win a prize from Amazon, a nice gift card. You can buy yourself something lovely. I don't know if you can get some Bitcoins from it. Mr. Dimitri will tell us, but it's going to be an exciting session. And so we invite you to stay tuned as we get right into the presentation with Mr. Dimitri. Before we do that, though, we will have his bio being done by our director, Karen Grant. Karen?
Oh, yes, I was waiting on the presentation. I'm sorry. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Our presenter this afternoon is an entrepreneur, an investor, a fintech operator, and who has a strong passion to create solutions for a better tomorrow. He serves as commercial director for Phoenix International, a core banking platform offered by MS Systems. His background includes a mix of IT, sales, business development, and he has worked with industry associations to promote technology adoption and business development across the Caribbean. When not behind the screen, you can find him racing through Jamaica's scenic rally stages as part of JetCom's rally team. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dimitri Dawkins.
Thank you very much, Karen. So guys, we're going to have a pretty interesting afternoon. I'm going to carry you through, well, we're supposed to talk about cryptocurrencies, tokens, NFTs, why they matter, but more importantly, I think the value of technology is not in just the tech itself, but how we apply it. And really and truly why NFTs and crypto and everything is getting so much press and so much buzz in general is because of what's called Web 3.0 and community. So I'm going to deep dive into that a little bit more. I actually like an engaging audience. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to just drop it into the chat. I'll see the notification come up, or use the Q&A. Actually, it's probably better to just use a Q&A feature to answer the question, and that way I can address them in order. If I'm going through anything too quickly, or you want to learn more about any particular area, then I'd be happy to slow down a little bit, give you more use cases, be able to explain this a little better. I mean, this is a very expensive meeting, and we have more than 30 people on here already. So let's make sure that we maximize the time that we spend with this session and get maximum value from it. So yeah, let me just jump into things. And the very first thing is, you might say, hey, what exactly is Web3? What is this Web 3.0 thing? And I like this quote from Chris Dixon on Twitter, where Web 1 is read. You know, when we first started and got access to the internet, you could go onto our website and you could read from that website. You could get information online. Web 2.0 came around the time of like blogging, WordPress, you know, Yahoo had sites, a bunch of other platforms, where not only were we now reading, but we could also contribute to the discussion. We could promote our own data and information online. Let's even think about the launch of, say, Wikipedia and the you know, other crowdsourced data applications, etc. That was Web 2. And then with Web 3, what you have is adding on the layer of ownership. So not only do you glean content online, not only can you promote or publish your content online, but now you can also own that content. So what does that mean? If we think of like a Web 2 interface, think of YouTube. Before you used to watch YouTube videos, now you probably upload YouTube videos as well. I think this session might be live streamed on YouTube as well, or maybe a recording uploaded afterwards. But the fact of the matter is that that platform, being YouTube itself, is owned by Google. And yes, you can get paid for the content that you upload, but you don't own a part of the platform. Web3 fundamentally allows ownership of the platform at the same time. And we're going to talk about some use cases for that a little further down as well. But when people talk about crypto, NFTs, etc., generally they're speaking to Web3 types of approach. And why Web3 is proving to be very powerful is because it helps to build community into that aspect. Was there a question a while ago? No? All right. So let's start off with the basics as far as what these things are, right? There's cryptocurrency. I pulled these definitions, I think, from Wikipedia, so you can check that afterwards. But cryptocurrency is typically a digital currency maintained by a ledger using cryptography. What does that all mean? Well, when you issue a banknote right now, you have a serial number on that note, a unique serial number. And so how it is that people keep track of, say, a Bitcoin or Ethereum that's being transferred from person to person is that is actually like a cryptographic key that says this is what it is, and it can't be duplicated because of the encryption. You don't really need to understand how the cryptography works. It will give you a headache unless you are very passionate on the topic. But the fact of the matter is that it's regarding the utility. You have a digital currency that you can spend online. Sometimes these digital currencies belong to what's called a decentralized network. So for instance, Bitcoin is not issued by the Bank of Jamaica or the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank or the US Federal Reserve, but it is controlled by a number of nodes that all maintain the crypto network. itself, right? But it doesn't have to be decentralized either, in the sense that we, for instance, Jamaica just launched the central bank digital currency, which is in many ways a form of crypto, but it is a centralized currency issued by the Bank of Jamaica. And there are many central banks across the globe that are now issuing their own form of digital currency. So some of you might say, well, hold on, I've also heard the term tokens. So what makes what's a cryptocurrency versus a token? And in many ways, a cryptocurrency could be a token, but just like you see the buttons here on the screen, it's basically a digital representation which is recorded on a digital ledger. So if you were to have an exchange for something, then that would necessarily be that could be a token. For example, you paid over some money at a merchant and they give you a receipt. That receipt is now a token, which is representing that transaction occurred, right? So let's just keep it simple. It is just an exchanged asset, digital asset for something on a network. And then this whole term of non-fungible tokens. So this is an interchangeable unit of data stored on a digital ledger. Breaking it down simply, it's something that's stored on a ledger, but that can't be changed. So you may have signed up for something online and made a typo, and then you adjusted the typo afterwards. In the case of an NFT, you couldn't change that typo, it is fixed in place. And let me give you some comparables. Crypto, a direct comparable is to your current digital payments that you do now, just like a credit card. You didn't actually see the cash or the value transfer between yourself and the merchant and the bank that's facilitating, but you know that the transaction took place. You know that you authorized the transaction using your PIN or whichever means, or a signature on the receipt. And so that's what you should compare it to. A token could work like a gift card. So somebody buys you, in this case, an Adidas gift card to use on their online store or maybe their Amazon web store or something like that. That is a token. It represents a value, but inherently it doesn't necessarily have that value, and it can be used or exchanged for something else. And let's think of NFTs. Well, I mentioned receipts earlier, but let's think of like the perspective of artwork. If you go to a gallery and you purchase a piece of art, that art is in its complete form. It is in a frame, it has dried already, it is known as this piece. If you try to modify it, then it's no longer that piece of work. It is now a derivative, right? If it is that you copy it, that does not mean that the original piece the original piece would have the status of, this is original, right? So people are like, oh, I saw this image sell online for $100,000 because Jay-Z just bought it or something, but I can right click and save and store it as my wallpaper. Why did they spend $100,000 for that? And I can just get it for free. What you have is the copy. Just in the same way that if you went to the Louvre and took a photo of the Mona Lisa, yes, you could reprint it and possibly have something in high definition that looks just like the Mona Lisa, but we all know that the actual Mona Lisa is at the Louvre. So basically, as a non-fungible token, something that can't be changed, it helps with the provenance or the serving as a certificate of authenticity for this piece of data. And it doesn't have to be artwork. It could be different images that people have online. It could be something like a land title or your car title. It could be representative of shares that you have in your company. It could be representative of other data forms that you want to store, but it's just things that you don't want to be able to change because it is demonstrating provenance and authenticity overall. Losing you guys so far? Is still there? Hope everybody's still there. All right.
Yes, we are.
Great. So I wanted to jump into like the Web3 side of things and how it is that we could apply these, tokens, NFTs, cryptocurrencies. And I try to just pull a universal example for, say, a hospitality, somebody who's running a resort or some form of service-based entity, and what your current value chain looks like. And then next, I'm going to go into what your Web3 value chain would look like and why it is so innovative or disruptive. So currently at the tip of your value chain, you have a product and service offering. This is why people have come to you. They have a certain expectation of an experience and as a certain expectation as far as the cost itself. You offer this product or service offering with your vendors who provide you your inputs, as well as your team that helps you with execution, right? I have the customer base below this because even though your customer is really number one, I expect that you have a larger customer base than your vendors or team. And you normally in a business only have a subset of your customers experiencing your products or service at the same time. So you have a large customer base, and as a subset of those people are accessing the product or service, right? Then you have other infrastructure that allows you to deliver these products and services. So you might have property, you have other assets, maybe computers, equipment, intellectual property assets, things like that, that allows you to leverage those things to provide the product and service. And then you have other utilities and core infrastructure. I mean, let's not get into the electricity, water, etc., but let's talk about banking and financial inclusion, where you need to accept payments, you need to make payments to your vendors and team. You might have to be, financing things for your property and assets, etc. And so we find that the financial services sector serves as a foundation for commerce in our day-to-day lives, right? Pretty straightforward. It's what we're used to. It's very different when you think of a Web3 model, right? Web3 tends to be based on community, and that's especially because of the ownership component. So jumping back over, we had product and service offering, vendors and team, customer base, property and assets, banking and financial inclusion. And then with Web3, it gets very muddy and there's a whole lot of overlap as far as functions. So we still have a clear function of the executing team. Somebody has to create the value through work, right? But your customer base now is actually what you consider a community. This community could just be a paying customer who appreciates or enjoys your product or service. That community member could also potentially be an investor in your business. That community member may be providing you infrastructure such as the property you operate from, or possibly leasing you assets or things like that. And then on the lower tier here, we have our supporting infrastructure, which you still have financial inclusion from your bank integrations. You still have your vendors that you're working with. You still have other tech services that are required because, frankly, we're all running tech-enabled businesses now in 2022. But by these three things combined, that's what creates the community offer. So you still have a layer, but the integration aspect of things is different. And let me bring this back into, for instance, our NFT tokens and cryptocurrencies, in that you guys would have heard the term blockchain at some point. That's the ledger I spoke to, where you store this NFT or a token or cryptocurrency. The ledger would be part of your supporting infrastructure that this transaction exists. Your executing team would have rights to to perform actions on behalf of the business or create value for the business. But over here on the community side, right, as far as investor, property owner, etc., you have somebody who's purchasing, let's just say, a vacation package or some regular product or service. They could have potentially helped you to start the business via crowdfunding and own some tokens representing shares in your company. They could have split up a land title or have a digital land title and automatically assign you rights or lease rights to operating from that property right there. And the list goes on. And so that is why your community now is just as critical a layer as your executing team or the other supporting infrastructure. And because of, let me not use the term of decentralization, but because it is not, made it more accessible for people to participate in your business, they are a direct contribution to your business offering, which is no longer just a regular product and service, but now an overall community offer, right? So this is a little complex, and I want to touch on some examples. Let's use Airbnb. Nearly everybody across the world has probably stayed in an Airbnb at some point. No, Airbnb is technically, in my mind, a Web 2.0 company, not a Web 3.0 company, but it has a lot of affinity, or it's very similar to Web 3 concepts. So Airbnb started off, they had a decentralized approach. Anyone could host a guest. The second thing was that the revenue was shared with hosts. Now, there is a trust factor. How does somebody know that I can show up at this person's house? Somebody's going to be there to let me in. It's going to be safe. It's going to be clean. There is a channel for complaints, etc., etc. Airbnb created that trust by how they structure their business model and platform. The community was created as the industry grew. So at first you just had a couple of hosts, you had different people. Then you have people who stayed in an Airbnb decided that they also were going to become hosts. You have hosts who prefer to continue to book other Airbnbs to recontribute to the community. You have tons of YouTube channels now about content related to either finding the best Airbnbs, to reducing costs, to operating your Airbnb in the best way, etc. And so there are what you call network effects created as a person transitions through different roles within the organization. And in some ways, it actually, now that it's a publicly traded company, you can go and buy shares and be an owner of the process as well. And so that adds in now that ownership aspect, albeit through traditional means. But I still don't think it's Web3 because it's not truly distributed ownership. Whereas for many like Web3 projects, just by buying in the first place or owning tokens in that project, you automatically become a shareholder or a beneficiary of revenue in that project, right? So you guys seen the parallels thus far? So that's just a use case of how the business model or operating model changes with, say, Web3 versus your traditional value chain, right? Going into some more use cases for Web3, because you don't have to layer everything together, you can take out different components. So just as how people are selling digital art online with NFTs, there is also potential to sell a vacation package as an NFT. So just as you might say, guests might make deposits on products or services that you have upcoming, and they choose to, or better yet, consider it like a gift certificate. If somebody wanted to share your product or service with a friend, with a colleague, with somebody that they think that might enjoy it. A gift certificate is basically an NFT. You have a register of this certificate. It has a unique ID. It has, meaning a serial number. It has a value assigned to it. It is assigned to a person, and that is stored in a ledger, right? In the same way with a traditional NFT, it has some form of value. The data is stored in a ledger. So you can now sell this NFT. Somebody who wants to claim based on this, say, gift voucher, or they want to cash in on their vacation package, etc., can now return this NFT. You can keep it to resell later on, or you can what they call burn or destroy it, meaning that it's now void because it's been claimed or reclaimed and not going to be issued any further. So this is an option that you can have in Web3 as part of the digital economy or crypto economy, and offer this as a product or service online. There are also other elements, such as I'm sure many of you would have signed up for a loyalty program, or maybe you offer your own loyalty program now. You could, for example, issue a branded token. So remember what we had shared before, that a token is a digital asset representing a value. And so you could use a digital token, for example, if somebody was at a resort and they were spending money at the gift shops and restaurants and maybe on some water sports or things like that, then therefore they could you could issue them loyalty tokens for spending, you get 2 tokens for every $100 spent or something like that, and they can redeem those for perks. Or if it is that you are on the banking or financial side and you had a credit card program, you could create your own digital token system, or any form of loyalty program, etc. But it's available publicly. Those individuals possibly could trade tokens or pool it with each other, just as, say, somebody has airline miles on their credit card and they opt to pool that up with a family member to pay for a vacation. They could consolidate those tokens and redeem them for the perks that you have available using crypto and Web3, and oftentimes a lot more affordably than you're used to for traditional loyalty programs. You can accept cryptocurrency payments for products and services to boost convenience. So there are a whole group of people now who are now crypto millionaires. They may not have it in US dollars, but they have it in cryptocurrency, and they're willing to spend this cryptocurrency with merchants that accept it. So just as you accept US dollars or the Chinese yuan, or Jamaican dollars or Canadian or pounds or euros, whatever else, you can add cryptocurrency as a payment method and redeem, accept payments for your products and services directly. That currency, just like you go to a Cambio or with your bank exchange currencies, there are exchanges for cryptocurrency, so you can get it back in the currency you so choose, or you could find another merchant who accepts crypto and spend it with them on those services overall, right? You could create a stored value ecosystem within your business or with your partners to allow convenient shopping. So let's use the case of the loyalty program that we mentioned before. Say someone is running a supermarket and they're issuing 1 token for every $100 spent at that supermarket. And then they have a partner, the flower shop at the front of the supermarket, or maybe a delivery partner or somebody else that is in the ecosystem and comes on board and says, hey, we're willing to accept the loyalty points from your program into ours because we want to target your customer demographic, and we think that we can provide additional value there. So then you can create a stored value ecosystem where yourself and close partners could all use the same tokens, allow convenient shopping. This could represent a dollar value or not. I recently went to an event in Miami, and what they did was that it was a music festival, and when you enter the venue, you put in your credit card, you could put in a stored value. I think I put on like $50 US, and it loaded my arm tag, the band that I used to get in, with its value. So when I went to the bar afterwards for a drink, they would tell me the cost, say $10, and I would just tap my armband on it and pay for the drink. That way, the entire music festival was cash free, and you felt more secure because there's just one point of using your credit card. It's not that you're using your credit card with a bunch of different merchants, etc. Worries about it being duplicated or anything else, or being lost, etc. So you can create that stored value ecosystem. Here's another interesting approach with having customers participate in decisions to launch new products. Especially if you have a very strong brand, like let's even speak a Nike or an Adidas or etc. Say you have a new collection that's about to release, a new product, a new service, and you want input from your customers, those who have your loyalty points, or maybe those who are just stored. I mean, you could issue them a VIP card that, hey, because you've come here 10 times, we count you as a VIP customer. Then you can also vote on products that you'd like to see, or services you'd like to see, or maybe revisions. So that way you can get make sure that your market confirms your assumptions before release, and it also helps you to demonstrate the demand for that product before you release it by having community engagement in the decisions. And finally, and this is probably the most controversial side of Web3 because it's so unregulated and nobody knows what's going on. A lot of people have been using this method to fundraise and expand using tokens. So that, like, they might have a token sale, or they have a group of NFTs that they put up for sale. One-of-one NFTs, they're supposed to be sort of like memorabilia, etc. So that, and the funds will be used towards expansion opportunities, or maybe even relief or things like that. Let's use the example of, especially since the recent crisis in Ukraine, there have been a number of Ukrainian artists who have been pushing out work, and people are purchasing it as a form of aid relief to those artists and to people, because they then take that cryptocurrency and distribute it to those in need in Ukraine, and they spend it as required as well. So there's plenty of opportunity on the Web3 side for fundraising. And so it's really and truly all about the community aspect. It's about how people interact with each other, and the fact that crypto, NFTs, etc., no longer require a central authority. It is real democratization of commerce, where someone can participate in the ecosystem, even if they don't have, say, full know your customer requirements like a regular bank would have, or let's just say that they don't have an ATM, or they don't have a Visa or MasterCard issued card to do a transaction, or a merchant that doesn't necessarily have to have a card machine to accept payments, or a fancy digital wallet. Crypto sort of just makes everything equal and allows people to interact with each other from a commerce point of view, from a governance point of view, from a fundraising point of view, ownership, the way that you manage assets, from distributing data, content, ideas, and just being able to interact with each other. It's many more points of interaction between people without being limited by central authorities, such as a platform like YouTube, or a central bank, or a newspaper that you might get information from. Now, people can interact directly without limits, mostly. So that's why I want to emphasize on the community aspect and not just NFTs and crypto itself, because it's how we use it that makes the difference with this technology. And that went through a lot faster than I expected for it. I see something in the chat. All right, Navlet, you want to just unmute? We can have a Q&A session now as well if people want to unmute and chat some more.
Okay, thank you so much, Dimitri, for that informative session. I have certainly learned a lot more, and we are going to see if our participants were listening, were actively listening. So I have, I don't know if you have any questions in the Q&A section as yet. Do we have any questions? Well, I do not see any. Well, I have a little quiz, and we want to give away a $50 Amazon gift card to someone who was listening. Now, when Mr. Dimitri was making his presentation, he gave us some examples of what a token would be like or what a cryptocurrency could be compared to. Now, the first person to respond in the chat with what a token works like and what the cryptocurrency works like gets a $50 Amazon gift card. Let's see who will be first. Are we all right? You have to answer both at the same time. So I see some answers coming in, but you have to answer both. So the token works like what and the cryptocurrency works like what? Both at the same time. All right, and we have a winner. We have several persons responding, but the winner takes it all. And the winner is Hector Trujillo. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And so you have it right. A token is similar to a gift card, and the cryptocurrency is similar to a credit card or a digital payment. So yes, you are correct. And we have persons paying attention. That's wonderful. Now, I want to ask you something about HFTP. I don't know if you were early, but I did say what HFTP stand for or where our global head office is located. So I want the responses to that. And that's a second gift card. Amazon, $50 to buy whatever. So what does HFTP stand for? And where is our head office located? Do we have any takers thus far? Let us see. Yes, I see the response to one, but where's the head office? No, the head office is not Montego Bay. All right. I'm getting the response, but I'm getting it in pieces. Give me both of them together. All right, and we have a winner. And the winner is Kathleen Smith. Hospitality, financial, and technology professionals, and the head office is in Austin, Texas. Wonderful stuff. Loving it. So we asked the question about cryptocurrencies. We got the responses. So remember now, your token works like a gift card and the cryptocurrency works like your credit card. And HFTP is hosting this webinar, and we have so much more in store for you for the rest of the year. Do you have any questions for Dimitri? Yes, I see 2 in the chat. Oh, sorry. The responses in the chat in the Q&A were in relation to the questions I'd asked. Do we have any questions from anyone? We promised to hold you for an hour. We have 15 minutes to go, and we want to know, do you have anything that you need to get clarified as it relates to the presentation that Dimitri has made, or are we crystal clear? Well, it seems we were crystal clear. I'm loving it. Well, it seems we're going to have a earlier end than promised. And so we want to just thank you all for joining. We want to thank you so much for joining, and we invite you to stay tuned, stay close to your devices, as we will be telling you more about our seminar, which will be an all-day seminar, and we wish to have you there in person with us. And you can also join us online, and that seminar is going to be in July. Stay tuned, save the date. We're going to be sending the flyer, and we're going to have exciting stuff on that date. I see, Mr. President, your hand is raised. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, just Dimitri, thanks for the presentation. I wanted to find out from you, what's the adoption of cryptocurrencies like in Jamaica, and is there a future for us in Jamaica here using digital currencies?
Oh, okay. Yeah, good question. So the adoption, I don't think is very high. Most of the people that I know who have been using cryptocurrencies or even just participating in Web3, let's say, and they're owning NFTs, etc. They're usually very they're usually in the financial space already, or they're on the tech side. A lot of them are developers or programmers. So we don't have many people who are actively using it. I would estimate probably 1,000 people or less locally. I cryptocurrency in the near future because it helps us to overcome some issues. Number one, we do have a foreign exchange issue where the prices are constantly fluctuating. And yes, there is still an exchange rate to cryptocurrencies or other tokens, but the fact is that it might prove to be a little more stable for international trade and commerce. Also, the fact that transaction fees are oftentimes lower than a traditional bank. So for the equivalent of 10 US, then it would probably cost me about 10 cents US to make that transaction. However, if I was to wire transfer you that from, say, a US account to a Jamaican account or vice versa, there would be a 40 US dollar charge for that wire transfer. So there are opportunities to improve the transaction cost. And on the flip side, let's even think of it from a merchant. If it is that we went to our favorite restaurant and spent and bought lunch, that transaction would cost us, $35 to $50 Jamaican, which it could have been cheaper, and the merchant is being charged as well. So there are cost improvements to be had. Part of the reason why digital currencies are so efficient is that cost improvement, and that's really why the Bank of Jamaica has come up with their own central bank digital currency. And so we can expect the average Jamaican to benefit from that in the near future. Our Minister of Finance just announced an incentive program to load, I believe it was 2,500 Jamaican dollars to the first 100,000 digital wallets that are supporting our digital currency. So we should see some heavy adoption of that later this year. And I expect with that will come follow on of heavy adoption of cryptocurrency and other digital transactions as people begin to get more familiar with it, trust it, use it, and move on from there.
Thanks, Dimitri. Probably two other questions. One,
sure.
President Biden, I think it was just last week, pretty much gave approval for a framework to be established for digital currencies within the states, right? Is that a signal that it's moving away from being a fad or playground of the rich, or people just in fintech, and to take wider adoption amongst economies?
Yeah, I think that's a very good indicator for that. We had a lot of people pulling back or pulling out of crypto because they now think there's increased regulation that's coming on. I think that we do need increased regulation for crypto to build trust with the general public. And so that way there is some, currently, I mean, it's the wild lowest. There are no rules. But by creating that framework, then it allows further integration and adoption into our traditional financial ecosystem and will allow us to benefit from the hybrid effect of working with this decentralized ecosystem with our more traditional ecosystems at the same time, and allow us to have more innovative products, solutions, etc. going forward, especially from the business model aspect where new companies going forward will not necessarily have as high a hurdle to achieving scale, or they could take a community-centric approach to scaling the business and allowing their customers to benefit as shareholders from day one.
Thanks, Dimitri. I think my final question has to do with NFT, right? It seems to be a space where these tokens are sold for millions of dollars, right? And that seems to be growing in terms of the community. Are there opportunities for Jamaica and Jamaicans to actually monetize this and find a way to make it economically viable here?
Yeah, definitely. We already have local NFT artists. As a matter of fact, we have one artist, Bonito Thompson, I think is his name. His Instagram and his Twitter is DonDadaJA. He has these wonderful augmented reality murals. So what that means is you will see a graphic. He has stuff related to his last collection was a cultural representation of dancehall, etc. And so you'll see this printer graphic and it looks amazing. But additionally, if you're to pull up your phone, it triggers a filter, just like how people use on, say, Snapchat or Instagram. And the filter makes the graphic come alive and move with you. So we already have, as I mentioned, like NFT artists who are selling out collections, making money from this online. Actually, I'm also working with Kingston Creative, and Kingston Creative is designed to help artists become more formalized and to monetize and to boost the cultural and creative industries in Jamaica. And they had a hackathon that was in late January, sorry. A hackathon in late January where the different people came up with solutions to solve issues around Jamaica. And one of the winners of that hackathon was actually a Web3 based service. They got some funding towards that and they're now expanding it. They just sent me a WhatsApp today saying that they want to update me on their progress as well. So there's more and more that's happening from the Web3 side of things. I've been approached personally by about 4 or 5 artists with regards to projects and collections, and a lot more founders, based on my background, have approached me as far as integrating Web3 into their day-to-day operations. So it's definitely, whereas last year nobody was talking about it, this year, the first quarter at least, I would say like a 500, 600% increase in activity.
All right, thanks much, Dimitri. Quite informative. Thank you very much.
No problem.